Hello friends, and welcome to this first tutorial in the Imperial Knight series. Just like the fantasy theme before, this will be a complete head-to-toe suit of armor. We will begin this series with the helmet, and I will demonstrate the crafting process from start to finish in leather. If you are experienced with other mediums like foam or metal, feel free to go that route instead. These tutorials will contain many useful tips to aid you in your leathercraft journey, and if you wish to craft this piece yourself, you can support future content by purchasing this pattern at princearmory.com, or get started at no cost with some of our free patterns. This Imperial Knight theme is designed specifically to take advantage of the intricate and delicate cuts a laser cutter can provide, and I'll be using a Glowforge laser for most of the cutting tasks in this series. Using a laser cutter can speed up your crafting process and allow for very interesting cuts, but it's still possible to cut everything by hand. Since the Glowforge is new to me, I'll be experimenting and sharing the learning curve of working with a new machine. I'll be using this series as a chance to explore and demonstrate how to use a laser cutter in general for your leather craft or business. And if you find yourself suddenly needing a Glowforge as a result of watching this series, you can use my affiliate link to take up to $500 off of your purchase, which will also help support future tutorials and content. Some of the tools and materials featured in this project were provided by Weaver Leather. I will have an affiliate link to Weaver's online store as well as some recommended materials in the description. Using a laser to cut leather can save a lot of time, but it does require some preparation. I'll provide many tips and tricks during this series, but it's up to you to know your machine. I will share my settings with you here, but I made a primer video that will help you dial in your cut settings for your own needs. If you missed that video, here is a quick recap. Since the thickness of the leather was 9 ounce, I set the focus to 3.5mm. After grabbing some scrap from the leather I want to use, first I did a test that was too strong. Then I did a test that was too weak. Then I estimated a middle ground and settled on 121 speed by 100 power for the test cut. There's a bit of scorching along the edges, but for my needs this is acceptable due to the color scheme I'll be going for. I'll try some other methods and work on cleaning up the cut quality in future videos though. Everyone will have different machines and different materials, so always do a test first to find what works best for you. Since this series will mostly focus on cutting by laser, please refer back to the Fantasy Armor tutorial series if you need guidance on printing and cutting by hand, and you can skip ahead in this video. For this helmet project, I pre-cut 5 panels of leather roughly 17 inches wide by 7.5 tall to give myself some extra room, but you may wish to tighten those dimensions a little to reduce scrap. If your laser bed differs in size from the Glowforge, you can rearrange the components as necessary in your software of choice. The patterns you download will contain a PDF variation for hand cutting, as well as SVG files with layout and size optimized for the Glowforge. In the interest of learning more about the capabilities of this machine, I continued to experiment with the settings for each panel that was cut. This also helps me find scenarios that others may encounter. For example, the settings on this piece were too conservative and did not cleanly cut all the way through in many places. To address this issue, you don't necessarily have to recut the pieces. To fix it, I just grabbed a fresh X-Acto blade and proceeded to separate the pieces. Since the laser did most of the cutting already, this process is quick and easy. Avoid the urge to tear out pieces that are barely not cut out, as you'll introduce fibers you'll have to clean up later. Laser cutting leather leaves a charred edge that can leave a residue and unpleasant odor. To alleviate this, I suggest you rinse your piece in water and give a quick scrub along the edges. I'm using a small piece of green Scotch Brite, but you can use any firm scrubbing pad you have on hand. While the pieces are still damp from cleaning, I'll give them a little bit of shape. This is optional, but it will help with assembly later, as well as giving the final result a bit more polish. I'm using metal forming stake here, as that is my go-to for most basic shaping. If you would like one of these, I've worked out a deal with a supplier of this so you can save some money when you pick one up. Find the link below. You can also use something more available, like a baseball, bowling ball, or anything else with a subtle dome to help form the leather over. And you can even just use your hands to work in the subtle shapes as needed for these pieces. For more assistance with wet forming leather, I will be making some more videos on this topic in the not too distant future. Now that the pieces are ready, it's up to you how to decorate and enhance them before assembly. In my case, I'll be giving the edges a dark gradient. If you would like to use this exact technique, please check the next upload in this series which will demonstrate it in more detail, or check out some of the other techniques demonstrated in other tutorials. It is also possible to just cut pre-dyed leather and assemble it straight away. For example, these were constructed with pre-dyed leather. There's no tooling, no dye, or finish, just cut and assemble. It still looks great and saves a lot of time. It's a really good option if you intend to sell stock of this piece. Don't get me wrong, I'm always going to advocate that you put in as much detail as you're comfortably able to put into your projects. But there are times when you want to reduce your overhead to deliver a more affordable project to your customers. Which reminds me, there seems to be some confusion about selling the items made from my patterns, as I get a lot of questions about it. While I reserve my right to update my terms at any time, the short answer is that yes, at this time I do allow commercial use, provided you follow the rules outlined in the terms. Please read and understand the terms before you sell products created from these patterns. When you're ready for assembly, there are a lot of pieces here, so it may help to lay out the pieces in advance according to the diagram supplied to the pattern. I'm using black medium and long length double capped rivets from Weaver leather. For this thickness of leather, use the medium length rivets for joining 2 layers and the long for going through 3. The order of assembly can vary, but for me I'm starting with the faceplate. First I will attach the eye trim piece to the visor. Then I'll add the side trim pieces. From there I'll add the chevron shape pieces to one side. Repeat this process starting from the top, and when you get to attaching the chevron pieces to the other side trim piece, you'll notice they do not meet up while laying flat. You have to pull in the chevron pieces to meet the sides. This helps force the shape of the visor and give a bit more layered dimension. Then I'll bend the visor slightly by hand to give it a little extra shape. The next element I'll be assembling is the central core of the helmet. Just make sure you're paying attention to the shapes of the center pieces. The first piece that will go along the front is the only one that has a secondary point along the center. Also note that the tube pieces at the very back are shorter. The way I choose to assemble this piece is to start with one of the side pieces, then start from the front and rivet them flat in a fan pattern. Just hold off on setting the final rivet, as that'll go through a layer on the side panel later. To attach the other core piece on the alternate side, it'll help if you have a foot rivet press, or if you can find something sturdy and domed that you can use to rivet over. If you can't find anything to help support the piece while you rivet it from the top, you'll have to turn the piece over and set them flat while hammering from the inside. Now we can start finishing the helmet core with the side panels. I'm starting at the back and working my way up towards the front. The subtle shaping I did earlier helps the pieces go together more naturally. The other side goes on the same way, one rivet at a time. I will temporarily affix the top trim layer on the side panel for now, and I'll wait until a later step before committing the rivets when I've confirmed where I want to attach the faceplate. When the faceplate and the helmet core are assembled, you need to join them. I wanted to leave a little flexibility for the faceplate, so this is the only part in the project you'll have to mark your own holes. In the future, I plan to have more faceplate options available, but for now I suggest aligning the faceplates as seen here. You can clamp the pieces together, use some temporary masking tape, or have someone help you while marking your preferred position. I clamped the lower visor along the jawline and allowed for a small gap between the visor and the brow of the helmet to allow the visor to raise. I'm using snaps for both the closure along the jaw as well as the pivot. If you're concerned about the snaps coming apart, you can substitute Chicago screws for the pivot along the temple, or permanently attach the faceplate entirely. After I add my snaps to the side trim plate and the visor, I'll finally commit the rivets. Here again, having something metal and domed you can set rivets against like this helps immensely, but if you're not there yet, just hammer them all flat from the inside. When you finish the assembly, you can tweak the shape by hand a little, finesse the final look to your preference. This is one reason I like to do the final assembly when the parts are still just a little damp from the sheen stage, as they will have just enough pliability to finesse the shape. And there you go, one more project is complete. I hope you'll enjoy the crafting process of this and consider delving into the world of leather crafting and laser cutting. I have many more tutorials planned, and the rest of the components in this Imperial Knight Armor series are coming real soon. More videos are still to come in the fantasy series as well, so make sure you're following us on YouTube and all the social platforms to stay up to date. Once again, a big thanks to our patrons for their support of this content. The latest patterns are included with the Academy tier of Patreon, and there will be many patterns added over the coming months. We'll have an active chat community on Discord. Check the link below to join the conversation and share your works or ask the community for help with your projects. Goodbye for now, but I'll be back real soon with more patterns and videos.